Senator Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me start by thanking Director Clapper and Director Brennan for your many years of service to your country. I also want to say that I appreciate the work that has been done by the intelligence community to produce this report, and I accept its findings. I do think that it's important that we understand more fully the extent of Russian intrusions into the electoral process to try to shape public opinion. And it is important to underscore 2 points that have been brought out already, and that is that there is no evidence that voting totals were manipulated or changed, or that emails that were released were manipulated or changed. Is that correct, Director Clapper?
That's correct.
The unclassified assessment states that Republican-affiliated websites were hacked by the Russians, but the report does not go into detail about whether or not data were stolen from those systems, and whether information came from networks used by Republican candidates, whether that included the Trump campaign. Could you give us a fuller understanding of the hacking on the Republican side? Was the Trump campaign, for example, hacked by the Russians? Or if Mr. Comey is the better person for this.
Thank you, Senator.
Director.
And I want to be thoughtful about what I say in an open setting, but there was evidence that there was hacking directed at state-level organizations, state-level campaigns, and the RNC, but old domains of the RNC, that is, email domains that they were no longer using, and that information was harvested from there, but it was old stuff. None of that was released. We did not develop any evidence that the Trump campaign or the current RNC was successfully hacked.
Does the ICC's conclusion that the Russians sought to assist President-elect Trump's campaign depend upon an assessment, then, that the Russians covertly collected information and from primarily Democratic sources, but some Republican sources as well, but only chose to release the derogatory information from Democratic sources?
That's correct.
And I noticed, having looked at many IC assessments, that this one was produced by 3 agencies. And usually I'm used to seeing assessments where the entire intelligence community is involved. For example, the State Department's Bureau, which was the bureau that was correct about the weapons of mass destruction, was not mentioned in the report. Is there a reason why it was, did you only need the CIA, the FBI, and NSA?
It had a lot to do with the sensitivity of the sources and who could actually contribute to the putting the assessment together. And we can discuss all that in closed session. Thank
you. Finally, I just want to underscore your point that we have talked a lot about the Russians' attempt to mold public opinion for our campaign. And as Senator Rubio so eloquently said, sow the divisions and seeds of doubt that it has everyone questioning, and charges and countercharges, which are really not healthy in our democracy when a new administration is taking over. But there's also an active Russian campaign to infiltrate, as you have said, military systems, defense contractor systems, critical infrastructure, commercial interests. Don't we need to take a broad look at all of the efforts by our adversaries to either control critical infrastructure, for example, or influence decision-making in those arenas as well.
Well, I think, if I understand your comment, Senator Collins, the point is valid, that this was a multifaceted activity, and it began with a rather broad-gauged assault, if you will, to attempt to infiltrate many entities across the board, which, military, commercial, governmental, party-related. And so, yes, they think of this holistically and use many tools, as they did in this case. Hacking was just but one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Heinrich.